That's not what it says.
The room froze. 5 American executives stared at the black waitress. CEO Tanaka's chopsticks clattered against fine china. What did you say? Seconds earlier, he'd hit Layla with his napkin. Just sake, girl. Nothing else. A dismissive flick of his wrist as the $500 million merger documents lay open, Japanese clauses exposed. No one had defended her. No one had noticed her eyes scanning page 3. Layla steadied her tray, 6 years of PhD linguistics study giving her absolute certainty. The hidden clause wasn't what Tanaka claimed. I said, she repeated, voice stronger now. That's not what it says. The translator paled. The American CEO leaned forward. Tanaka's face contorted with rage. How dare a waitress interrupt? But it was too late. 5 simple words. 1 hidden truth. A $500 million scheme about to unravel. The Golden Dragon wasn't just any Japanese restaurant in Manhattan. Marble counters, hand-painted screens, windows overlooking Central Park. A place where million-dollar deals were sealed over $400 sake. And Layla Williams wasn't just any waitress. Table 7 needs water, the manager hissed as she passed. And smile more. These are important people. Layla nodded, already calculating how tonight's tips would cover next semester's tuition. Double shifts had become her norm restaurant by night. PhD linguistics program by day. Her specialization in ancient Japanese dialects didn't pay bills, but it fed her soul. She watched Tanaka's table from the corner of her eye. The Japanese CEO commanded attention with each gesture. His translator, a nervous man with wire-rimmed glasses, shadowed his every move. They've been here 3 nights in a row, whispered Jin, the bartender. Biggest merger of the year. Layla refilled water glasses at a nearby table. The American company Westridge Tech? Yeah, Tanaka's buying them out. The CEO looks like he's about to retire to a private island. Layla glanced at the American executives' tailored suits, polished watches, practiced smiles. Men who'd never noticed someone like her. Men who'd never imagined she could understand every Japanese word flowing between Tanaka and his associates. Her phone vibrated. A text from her professor. Need your translation of the Edo period scroll by Friday. Your work on the imperial court documents was exceptional. Layla slipped her phone away, straightening her black uniform. 2 more hours until her shift ended. 2 more hours of invisibility. Waitress! Tanaka's sharp call cut through the ambient music. She approached with practiced composure. Yes, sir? Bring the private label sake. The Americans should taste real quality before signing. Layla nodded. Right away, sir. As she turned, she caught fragments of Tanaka's Japanese aside to his colleague. Idiots have no idea what they're giving away. She walked to the bar, face neutral, mind racing. $500 million. Wahan. The figure dominated the conversation at Tanaka's table. $500 million to acquire Westridge Tech, a struggling American company with promising patents. Mr. Davidson, Tanaka addressed the American CEO. Your board made the right decision. Under Tanaka Industries, your technology will finally reach its potential. Davidson nodded, relief evident. After last quarter's losses, your offer came at the perfect time. Layla placed the premium sake before them, pouring with precise movements. No one acknowledged her presence. The final signing tomorrow is merely formality, Tanaka continued. Our legal teams have resolved all issues. The translator nodded eagerly. All terms standard. Very favorable to both parties. Davidson's CFO leaned forward. The clause about the semiconductor patents, it's written in Japanese. Technical specifications, Tanaka waved dismissively. Legal language doesn't translate well. My translator assures me it merely confirms Westridge retains manufacturing rights for 5 years. Layla's hand trembled slightly as she finished pouring. The Japanese text clearly stated 2 years, not 5, with punishing penalties for production delays. But she wasn't paid to read. She wasn't paid to understand. She was paid to be invisible. The restaurant manager appeared at her elbow. "Mr. Tanaka's group needs privacy. Serve quickly and leave." Tanaka smiled thinly. "Yes, important matters to discuss. No interruptions." As Layla retreated, she heard Tanaka switch to Japanese, telling his associate, "Once signed, we'll implement immediate production changes. They'll default within months, and we'll own everything for half the price." His colleague laughed. "Americans, always in a hurry to sell their future. 3 years earlier, Columbia University's Asian Languages Department. Ms. Williams, this is extraordinary." Professor Hiroshi adjusted his glasses, examining Layla's translation of an obscure 16th century text. Afternoon light streamed through library windows, illuminating ancient scrolls and modern laptops. "You've captured nuances native speakers often miss. This passage about imperial succession, how did you recognize the hidden meaning?" Layla pointed to specific characters. The writer used classical court phrasing, but inverted the honorifics. It's a subtle criticism disguised as praise. Professor Hiroshi leaned back, impressed. 6 months in Kyoto and you've surpassed students who've studied for years." Layla shrugged. "My grandmother taught me that languages aren't just words, they're keys. The right key opens doors others don't even see." "Your talent is wasted making coffee and taking lunch orders." "My talent doesn't pay rent," Layla replied. "The restaurant does." The memory faded as Layla arranged appetizers at Tanaka's table. Her eyes caught the merger document's edge. Japanese characters, formal business language with subtle dialectal choices that revealed the writer's northern upbringing. She recognized the style legal, but crafted to conceal rather than clarify. Tanaka's translator noticed her glance. "Something wrong, waitress?" "No, sir. Just making sure everything's arranged properly." The translator narrowed his eyes, sliding the document away. Tanaka laughed at something Davidson said, switching briefly to Japanese to tell his colleague, "They don't even question the technical specifications section." Pure gold. Layla moved to the next table, her mind automatically translating each word she'd glimpsed. Patents ownership, transfer conditions, none matching what the Americans believed they were signing. The executive dinner reached its final course. Tanaka dominated conversation, painting visions of global expansion while the Americans nodded eagerly. "Tomorrow we sign at 9, Davidson confirmed, loosened by premium sake. "My board expects the initial transfer by noon." Tanaka's smile didn't reach his eyes. Efficiency. The Japanese way. The translator excused himself to take a call. In his haste, he bumped the table, sending papers sliding. Documents spilled onto the floor, financial projections, contract drafts, the merger agreement with its critical Japanese clauses. Layla appeared instantly with a serving tray. "Let me help." "No need," the translator said sharply, scrambling to collect papers. Too late. Layla had already gathered several pages, her eyes scanning automatically. Her heart raced as she identified the crucial section Article 7, Intellectual Property Transfer. The translator snatched the papers. "These are confidential." "Of course." "Sorry for the intrusion." Layla's expression revealed nothing as she handed them over, but those brief seconds had been enough. The translation provided to the Americans claimed Article 7 ensured Westridge would retain manufacturing rights and receive technology licensing fees for 5 years. The actual Japanese text specified complete transfer upon first production delay, with impossible timeline requirements. It wasn't just aggressive business. It was fraud. "Is everything all right?" Davidson asked, noticing the commotion. "Just a clumsy moment," Tanaka replied smoothly. "Nothing important disturbed." The translator rearranged the documents, checking that all pages were accounted for. His eyes met Layla's, searching for any hint of comprehension. Finding none, he relaxed. More dessert, gentlemen? Layla asked, maintaining her professional demeanor. No. The bill, Tanaka commanded. We have an early signing tomorrow. As she walked away, Layla heard Tanaka's Japanese aside to his colleague. By this time tomorrow, we'll own their patents outright. The production requirements will be impossible to meet. Her hands clenched. $500 million and dozens of American jobs about to vanish into a carefully crafted trap. Private room secure? Tanaka asked as Layla delivered the check. Yes, sir. Staff has been instructed not to disturb you, she replied. The Americans had stepped out for a smoke break, leaving Tanaka with his 3 Japanese colleagues. The moment the door closed, they switched to rapid Japanese, unaware of the waitress who understood every word. Davidson is a fool, Tanaka said, lighting an expensive cigar despite the no-smoking policy. He's so desperate to save his company he didn't even bring his own translator. His legal advisor laughed. The American lawyer tried to question Article 7, but our translator convinced him it was standard terminology. Once they sign, Tanaka continued, we immediately enforce the production schedule in Section 12B, triple output within 30 days. Impossible for their facilities, nodded the operations director. They'll violate terms by week 2. Then we invoke penalty clauses. Their patents transfer immediately, and we close their factories. Layla maintained her composure as she processed the bill, fingers moving mechanically while her mind raced. What about the employees? Asked a younger executive. Tanaka shrugged. American problem. We only want the semiconductor designs. The rest is waste. $500 million for technology worth billions, the legal advisor mused. Plus, we eliminate our strongest competitor. A perfect strategy, Tanaka smiled. Davidson sells his company's future without even reading what he's signing. Layla placed the receipt discreetly on the table. Will there be anything else, gentlemen? Tanaka waved her away without looking up. We'll announce factory closures next quarter. Blame American inefficiency. The workers? The younger executive asked again. Not our concern, Tanaka replied coldly. Business is war. They lost. As Layla walked away, she heard the final damning exchange. What if someone notices the discrepancy between versions? After signing? Too late. Contract specifies Japanese text as authoritative in disputes. We made sure Davidson's team accepted that clause yesterday. 2,000 employees, $500 million, one signature away from disaster. Layla paused at the service station, watching the Americans return, laughing and unaware. Davidson had mentioned his retirement plans earlier, his company's legacy secured, employees protected. All lies. Should she speak up? Risk her job? Risk being dismissed as just a waitress interfering in business she couldn't possibly understand? The weight of knowledge pressed against her chest like a stone. Layla refilled water glasses mechanically, mind churning. Speak up or stay silent. Her manager's warnings echoed. Customers don't pay for your opinions. They pay for service. 3 years earlier, she'd corrected a professor's translation during a university fundraiser. Stay in your lane, he'd snapped. Servers serve. The restaurant needed her to be invisible. Columbia needed her tuition payments. Both required her silence. But 2,000 Westridge employees needed someone to see what was hidden. Layla watched Davidson check his watch, beaming with relief. A man who thought he'd saved his company, unaware he was selling it for slaughter. She could see tomorrow's headlines. Tech giant acquires struggling American company. Then, months later, factory closures shock industry. Workers without warning. Families without income. All because of deliberately mistranslated clauses. You okay? Jin whispered as she passed the bar. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, she answered automatically. Was she, though? Her grandmother's voice surfaced from memory. Knowledge brings responsibility, Layla. Seeing what others can't means you must sometimes speak when others won't. Tanaka signaled for Coates. The meeting was ending. Decision time approaching. What would speaking up cost her? The job that paid her rent? The manager's recommendation she needed for her work visa extension? Possibly her place in the PhD program if the restaurant owner complained to his friend on Columbia's board? What would silence cost others? Everything. Layla straightened her spine. Her grandmother hadn't raised her to choose comfort over conscience. The Americans gathered their belongings, shaking hands with Tanaka. Final pleasantries exchanged. "The contracts are ready for morning," Tanaka confirmed. 9 o'clock, my office. Davidson nodded eagerly. "Looking forward to our partnership." Layla approached with their coats. The moment stretched like glass about to shatter. Speak now or forever hold her peace. "Excuse me, Mr. Davidson?" Layla's voice was steady despite her racing heart. "You forgot this document." She held out a folded paper, nothing important, just a drink menu, but it gave her reason to approach. "Thank you." Davidson checked her name tag. Layla. She nodded, using the moment to glance at the merger documents in the translator's portfolio case. Article 7 was visible, its Japanese characters clear from her angle. Tanaka noticed her lingering gaze. His eyes narrowed. "Is there something else?" he asked sharply. "Just clearing the glasses, sir." She reached for an empty sake cup, positioning herself to see more of the text. The translator shifted uncomfortably, closing his case. Layla's mind photographed what she could see. The penalty clauses were worse than she'd initially thought. Not just patent transfer, but liquidated damages that would bankrupt Westridge entirely. "The waitress seems very interested in our paperwork," Tanaka observed coldly. The manager appeared instantly. "Is there a problem, Mr. Tanaka? Your staff is overly attentive." "Layla, that's enough of service for this table," the manager instructed firmly. "Attend to room 3. She bowed slightly. "Of course." "Enjoy your evening, gentlemen." As she turned, Tanaka spoke quietly to his translator in Japanese. "Did she see anything?" "Impossible. She's just a server." Layla maintained her composure, moving unhurriedly toward the kitchen. Behind her, she felt Tanaka's suspicious gaze. At the service station, she quickly wrote down what she'd seen, translating key phrases. The evidence was clear. Deliberate mistranslation designed to trap the American company. Davidson's voice carried across the restaurant. "Until tomorrow, then." 9 o'clock sharp. Time was running out. Jin appeared beside her. "Manager's watching you. Says you're too interested in the VIPs. Jin, do you still have that friend at the Business Journal?" He blinked, surprised. "Yeah, why?" "I might need a contact." "Soon." "Layla, what's going on?" She shook her head. "Hopefully nothing. But if it's something, it's very big." The dinner party prepared to leave. Last handshakes. Final pleasantries. Layla stood by the coat check, heart pounding against her ribs. Last chance to speak or forever live with silence. The manager hovered nearby, clearly monitoring her after Tanaka's complaint. "Just hand them their coats and step back," he muttered. She nodded mechanically. Davidson approached first, still glowing from what he believed was a business triumph. "Thank you for the excellent service." "Sir," Layla began, voice lower than intended. "Yes?" He actually looked at her, perhaps for the first time all evening. Words formed and dissolved on her tongue. How to begin? Your business partner is deceiving you? The translation is fraudulent? I understand Japanese better than your legal team? Each opening sounded absurd coming from a waitress. "Is something wrong?" Davidson asked, noticing her hesitation. Tanaka appeared beside him. "We have cars waiting, Mr. Davidson." The moment stretched taut. Behind them, the translator watched nervously, documents clutched to his chest. "Sir," Layla tried again. "The document translation..." What about it? Davidson asked, confused. Tanaka's expression hardened. This is highly inappropriate. The restaurant manager stepped forward. Layla, that's enough. 2,000 jobs, $500 million, her entire future. Davidson frowned, genuinely curious now. Do you need something? 5 seconds to decide. 5 seconds to change countless lives, including her own. The translator whispered something to Tanaka, who responded in rapid Japanese. She can't possibly understand. Stop drawing attention. That settled it. Sir, Layla said, meeting Davidson's eyes directly. Article 7 of your agreement? The Japanese version doesn't say what you've been told. The room froze. Excuse me? Davidson blinked, processing her words. This is outrageous, Tanaka snapped. A waitress interrupting business matters. The manager grabbed Layla's arm. You're fired. Leave now. But Davidson raised his hand, suddenly alert. Wait. What exactly are you saying? Layla took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change everything. That's not what it says. The document. That's not what it says. Silence seized the room. Servers froze mid-step. Diners paused with forks suspended. Davidson looked from Layla to Tanaka, confusion clouding his features. What is she talking about? Nothing. A confused employee, Tanaka dismissed, but his knuckles whitened around his briefcase handle. Article 7 doesn't guarantee 5 years of manufacturing rights, Layla continued, words tumbling out now. It creates impossible production quotas you must meet within 30 days. The translator stepped forward. This is absurd. How would a waitress know? The real terms trigger immediate patent transfer upon first production delay, she pressed on. Complete ownership reversion to Tanaka Industries. Davidson's face drained of color. Is this true? Of course not, Tanaka laughed, but the sound was brittle. Mr. Davidson, surely you don't take business advice from restaurant staff. The manager pulled Layla's arm. Out, now. Wait. Davidson raised his hand. Eyes narrowed, he turned to Tanaka. Why is she saying this? Attention-seeking, nothing more. Then you won't mind if we review Article 7 again, with a different translator? Tanaka's smile tightened. This is highly irregular. We've been through the documents thoroughly. Davidson didn't back down. Humor me. Sir, the translator interjected, we have a signing scheduled for 9 a.m., which gives us plenty of time to clear up this misunderstanding, Davidson replied, voice hardening. He turned to Layla. You're claiming the Japanese text differs from what I've been told? She nodded. Substantially. And Article 12b contains production requirements physically impossible for your facilities to meet. The CFO pulled out his phone. I'm calling our legal team. This is ridiculous, Tanaka hissed. Taking the word of a what? Davidson asked quietly. Someone who has nothing to gain and everything to lose by speaking up? He gestured to the documents. Show me what she's talking about. The translator clutched the portfolio closer. These are confidential. Show me, Davidson repeated, or we walk away now. In that moment, power shifted like tectonic plates beneath their feet. This is unprecedented, Tanaka fumed, taking the word of serving staff over international business partners. They'd moved to a private dining room. The merger documents lay spread across the table. Tension crackled like static electricity. I'm simply being thorough, Davidson replied. If there's nothing to hide, there's no problem with a second look. The translator pointed to Article 7. As I've explained multiple times, this section guarantees Westridge manufacturing rights for 5 years following acquisition. Davidson looked to Layla. And you disagree? She stepped forward, acutely aware of every eye upon her. The Japanese text specifies conditional production privileges, not guaranteed rights. The following sentences outline termination conditions activated by production delays. Ridiculous, the translator scoffed. Ms. Williams. Layla Williams. Ms. Williams is misreading complex legal terminology. These are standard contractual phrases. Tanaka checked his watch ostentatiously. This has gone far enough. Ms. Williams, what qualifies you to challenge my legal team's translations? The question hung in the air. Layla felt her credibility balancing on a knife's edge. I'm pursuing a PhD in Japanese linguistics at Columbia University, specializing in classical and modern business dialects. Davidson's eyebrows rose. Tanaka's expression flickered between surprise and calculation. A student, he said dismissively, not even a graduate. A doctoral candidate, she corrected quietly, with published translations of Edo period commercial contracts. The CFO whispered something to Davidson, who nodded thoughtfully. Even if true, Tanaka countered, academic knowledge doesn't translate to modern business practices. Then you won't object to an independent translator reviewing these sections, Davidson suggested, to clear up any academic misunderstandings. Tanaka's smile didn't reach his eyes. At 9 tomorrow, our teams will address any concerns. Tonight is hardly the venue for contract review. I disagree, Davidson replied. Tonight seems exactly the right time. He turned to his CFO. Call Jessica Chen from legal. Get her here now. This is highly irregular, Tanaka protested. So is discovering potential mistranslations the night before signing, Davidson countered, newfound steel in his voice. Layla stood perfectly still, aware she'd crossed a line from which there was no return. The restaurant owner arrived, summoned by urgent calls from the manager. Mr. Tanaka, Mr. Davidson, I cannot apologize enough for this interruption, he began, shooting daggers at Layla with his eyes. Davidson raised a hand. Your employee may have done us all a service. She's interfering in matters beyond her understanding, Tanaka insisted. Let's settle this, Davidson said firmly. Ms. Williams, you claim advanced knowledge of Japanese. Prove it. All eyes turned to Layla. The moment of truth. May I? She gestured to the documents. With Davidson's nod, she selected Article 12b. This section details production requirements, she explained. The English summary states reasonable output increases. The actual Japanese text specifies triple production within 30 days. She translated line by line, her voice gaining confidence. Years of academic training crystallized into this moment. The penalty clause isn't just financial. It triggers immediate patent transfer and factory closure options. The translator's face had gone pale. Tanaka maintained his composure, but his eyes had narrowed to slits. This is one interpretation, he said smoothly. Legal language has nuances. Yes, Layla agreed. Like the difference between partnership and predation. Davidson's phone buzzed. Legal is on their way, 20 minutes. The restaurant owner shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps this matter should be continued elsewhere. We're staying, Davidson stated flatly. And Ms. Williams is staying too. She has tables to serve, the manager protested. Not anymore, Davidson replied. She's now consulting for Westridge Technologies. He turned to Layla. If you'll help us understand exactly what we're being asked to sign, I'll make it worth your while. Tanaka's face darkened. This is most irregular. No, Davidson countered. What's irregular is what you tried to slip past us. Mr. Ito, Tanaka addressed the restaurant owner directly. Your establishment has been my preferred venue for years. I've brought millions in business through your doors. The owner bowed slightly. Your patronage is deeply valued, Mr. Tanaka. Then explain why your waitress is sabotaging a $500 million merger. Ito glared at Layla. Ms. Williams will be terminated immediately, I assure you. She stays, Davidson interrupted, until we resolve this matter. Tanaka switched tactics. Mr. Davidson, surely you understand the precariousness of your company's position. Walking away from this deal would be unwise. The threat hung in the air, unspoken but clear. Westridge needed this merger to survive. Are you suggesting, Davidson asked carefully, that I should ignore potential fraud because I'm desperate? I'm suggesting business requires trust, Tanaka replied smoothly. Trust now damaged by unfounded accusations. He turned to Layla. Ms. Williams, your academic aspirations. Columbia University has a prestigious program. It would be unfortunate if your impulsiveness affected your standing there. The implied threat wasn't subtle. Tanaka's influence extended beyond business. My friend serves on Columbia's board, he continued. He appreciates my contributions to their endowment. Layla's stomach tightened. Her scholarship, her academic future, everything suddenly precarious. Ito seized the opportunity. Ms. Williams, perhaps you misunderstood. A simple apology. I didn't misunderstand, she stated firmly. The translation is deliberately misleading. Davidson watched this exchange with calculating eyes. Are you threatening Ms. Williams, Mr. Tanaka? Merely highlighting consequences of reckless actions. The restaurant phone rang. Ito answered, then turned pale. Westridge legal team has arrived, and reporters from the Business Journal. Tanaka's composure cracked. Reporters? Who contacted the press? All eyes turned to Layla, who remained impassive. I want that document, Davidson said quietly to his CFO, and I want her protected. Tanaka leaned forward, voice dropping to steel. Consider carefully, Mr. Davidson. Without this merger, Westridge fails within months. Your shareholders lose everything. Is that worth risking over a waitress's wild claims? The door opened. A sharp-dressed woman entered, legal briefcase in hand. Davidson smiled thinly. Let's find out. Jessica Chen, Westridge Legal, the newcomer announced, surveying the tension-filled room. What exactly am I looking at here? Davidson quickly explained the situation. Chen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes sharpened when she examined the documents. We need an independent translator, she stated. Unnecessary, Tanaka insisted. My team has provided certified translations. Then you won't mind verification. Chen turned to Layla. Ms. Williams, I understand you're claiming discrepancies. Layla pointed to specific clauses. Article 7 and 12b contain the most significant issues. The Japanese text creates impossible performance requirements triggering severe penalties. Chen studied the documents, frowning. I don't read Japanese well enough to verify complex legal terminology. Precisely why you trusted our translations, Tanaka interjected smoothly. Professor Hiroshi at Columbia could confirm, Layla suggested. He's the department chair for East Asian languages. Davidson nodded to his assistant. Call him. Now. The translator whispered urgently to Tanaka in Japanese. This is getting out of control. Should we withdraw? Too late, Tanaka replied. Damage control only. Layla translated their exchange for Davidson, whose expression hardened further. Tanaka switched to English. This melodrama is unnecessary. If there are concerns, our legal teams can address them tomorrow. After we've signed, Davidson countered. I think not. The restaurant's private room had transformed into a war room. Phones buzzed, legal pads appeared. The merger that seemed certain hours ago now hung by a thread. We need concrete evidence, Chen pressed. Ms. Williams' claims are serious, but require verification. All eyes turned to Layla again. The weight of the moment pressed upon her. Westridge's future, her own career, 2,000 jobs. The production requirements in 12B, she began carefully. The English summary says, gradual increase over 12 months. The Japanese text specifies triple production within 30 days with exclusive Tanaka control of supply chain. If true, that's deliberate misrepresentation, Chen stated. If true, Tanaka emphasized, a waitress's interpretation hardly constitutes evidence. The assistant returned. Professor Hiroshi is unavailable until morning. Davidson checked his watch. We need answers tonight. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. Enough, Ito declared. This has disrupted my restaurant for too long. Ms. Williams, collect your things and leave immediately. Wait, Davidson began. No, Ito cut him off. My establishment cannot be the battlefield for your corporate disputes. Ms. Williams has created this situation with unsubstantiated claims. Tanaka nodded approvingly. A wise decision. Layla stood her ground. The claims aren't unsubstantiated. The evidence is right there in the text. Text you conveniently claim to understand better than professional translators, Tanaka's lawyer interjected. Doubt crept across the room. Davidson exchanged glances with his CFO. Chen frowned at the documents, unable to verify either translation. Without independent confirmation, Chen began cautiously. Exactly, Tanaka seized the opening. Baseless accusations have nearly derailed a beneficial partnership. Ms. Williams clearly misunderstood complex legal terminology. The restaurant manager appeared with security. Miss Williams, please come with us. For the first time, Layla felt her confidence waver. She'd risked everything on truth, but truth required proof. Proof she couldn't provide without external validation. Davidson watched her carefully. Why should I believe you over Mr. Tanaka's team? The question hung in the air, fair but devastating. Because I have nothing to gain and everything to lose, she answered quietly. Mr. Tanaka has 500 million reasons to mislead you. Tanaka laughed coldly. Desperation makes for poor arguments. Security stepped forward. Ito gestured toward the door. Ms. Williams, you're terminated. Leave now or we'll call the police. Her academic future, her visa, her rent, everything collapsing around her. Davidson sighed. Perhaps we've overreacted. Without concrete evidence, The evidence is in the document, Layla insisted, even as security took her arm. Article 12B specifically states, Enough, Ito snapped. Out. As security escorted her toward the door, Layla made one last appeal. Mr. Davidson, 2,000 people work for Westridge. This deal will destroy their livelihoods within months. Tanaka smiled triumphantly. Dramatic accusations from a disgruntled employee, hardly the basis for business decisions. The door closed behind her. Game over. Wait. Davidson's command cut through the room just as Layla reached the hallway. Security paused. Ito turned, frowning. Bring her back, Davidson ordered. Mr. Davidson, Tanaka protested, we've wasted enough time on these baseless... If they're truly baseless, Davidson interrupted, you should have no objection to a simple test. He strode to the door, addressing Layla directly. You claim expertise in Japanese business language. Prove it. Tanaka's lawyer interjected, this is highly irregular. So is discovering potential fraud the night before signing, Davidson countered. He turned to Tanaka. Unless you have something to hide. The challenge hung in the air. Tanaka's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. A simple verification would clear this up, Davidson continued reasonably. If Ms. Williams is wrong, we proceed tomorrow as planned, if she's right. He left the consequence unspoken. Tanaka calculated visibly, then shrugged with practiced nonchalance. If it settles matters, fine. Though testing business documents against academic theory seems pointless. Not just the merger document, Davidson specified. A neutral text, something Ms. Williams couldn't have prepared for. Chen nodded approval. That would be fair assessment. I have no objection, Layla stated calmly. Davidson turned to Tanaka. Do you? After a moment's hesitation, Tanaka nodded. Very well. A brief test, then we conclude this disruption. The tension in the room shifted. Security released Layla's arm. She returned to the table, standing taller now. Tanaka produced his phone, searching briefly. A press release from my company last month. Technical specifications for our new semiconductor line. He displayed the screen. Japanese text only. Let's see this supposed expertise. The dense technical text filled the screen. Specialized terminology. Industry-specific phrasing. A deliberate trap. Layla took a deep breath and began translating, converting complex technical Japanese into precise English. Transistor density, manufacturing protocols, market positioning. Halfway through, Tanaka's translator interrupted. She's making this up. These terms are too specialized. No, Tanaka himself cut in, scrutinizing Layla with new intensity. She's correct. His surprise was genuine. Precisely correct, in fact. The room fell silent. Davidson smiled thinly. Then perhaps we should revisit the merger documents. One correct translation proves nothing, Tanaka's lawyer insisted. Technical documents differ from legal contracts. Then let's settle this definitively, Davidson countered. He turned to his assistant. Try Professor Hiroshi again. The assistant dialed, putting the phone on speaker. 3 rings, then a gruff voice answered. Hiroshi speaking. It's nearly midnight. Who is this? Professor, this is James Davidson, CEO of Westridge Technologies. I apologize for the late call, but we have an urgent situation involving one of your doctoral students, Layla Williams. A pause. Miss Williams? What's happened? She's made claims about Japanese translation that could impact a major business deal. We need verification of her expertise. Layla is here? Surprise colored the professor's voice. Put her on. Professor, Layla said, relief evident in her voice. I'm reviewing a merger document with significant translation discrepancies. What kind of discrepancies? Production requirements in Article 12B, patent ownership reversion in Article 7. Hiroshi's tone sharpened. Those are precisely the clauses that caused problems in the Nakamura-Boston contract last year. The room fell silent. Tanaka's expression darkened. Professor, Davidson pressed, can you verify Ms. Williams' qualifications regarding Japanese business language? Absolutely. She's the department's top translator for business and legal texts. The Japanese cultural attaché specifically requested her for diplomatic document translation last month. Tanaka's translator paled visibly. Her thesis on hidden clauses in Meiji-era commercial contracts is becoming required reading, Hiroshi continued. Several law firms have consulted her expertise. Davidson's eyes never left Tanaka's face. Would you consider her qualified to identify discrepancies in translation? More than qualified. If Layla Williams says a translation is incorrect, I would stake my reputation on her assessment. The professor's endorsement hung in the air like a verdict. Thank you, Professor, Davidson said. That's exactly what we needed to hear. Let's review Article 7 again, Chen said, newfound authority in her voice. Ms. Williams, please translate the Japanese text line by line. Layla began methodically translating the critical sections, her voice clear and confident. The Japanese states, manufacturing rights remain conditionally with Westridge Technologies for a period not to exceed 24 months, contingent upon meeting all production quotas established in Section 12B. She looked up. The English summary you were provided claims guaranteed rights for 5 years. 2 years versus 5, and conditional versus guaranteed. Davidson turned to Tanaka, whose composed facade had begun to crack. Continue, Chen instructed. Layla moved to Article 12B. Production quotas will escalate as follows. Month 1 triple current output. Failure to meet these targets constitutes material breach, activating immediate transfer of all patent rights to Tanaka Industries without additional compensation. She paused. The English summary presented this as reasonable production increases over 12 months. Impossible targets designed to force default, Davidson concluded, voice dangerously quiet. There's more, Layla continued. Upon first instance of production delay, Westridge forfeits all intellectual property claims and grants Tanaka Industries unilateral authority to close manufacturing facilities. The room fell silent as the full scope of the deception emerged. Chen's pen scratched rapidly across her legal pad. This goes beyond aggressive negotiation. It's fraudulent misrepresentation. Tanaka's translator whispered urgently in his ear. The Japanese CEO's expression remained stone, but his knuckles whitened around his pen. Is there anything else we should know? Davidson asked Layla. She nodded. Article 15 specifies that in case of dispute, only the Japanese text is considered authoritative. Davidson turned to Tanaka, eyes cold. You were never acquiring our company. You were stealing it. This meeting is over. Davidson's voice cut through the tension. And so is this deal. He gathered the merger documents, handing them to Chen. Prepare a formal termination notice. Cite fraudulent misrepresentation. Mr. Davidson, Tanaka began, dropping the hostile tone. Business negotiations always involve different interpretations. This wasn't interpretation. It was deliberate deception. Davidson turned to his team. Contact the board immediately and call SEC enforcement regarding potential securities fraud. Tanaka's composure finally cracked. You're overreacting. These discrepancies can be addressed. They have been addressed, Davidson interrupted, by canceling this merger. The translator attempted damage control. Perhaps a good faith renegotiation? There is no good faith here, Chen interjected, reviewing her notes. Only a systematic attempt to mislead. The restaurant owner hovered anxiously. Gentlemen, perhaps we're leaving, Davidson stated flatly. He turned to Layla. Ms. Williams, would you join us? I believe we have matters to discuss. Tanaka's final attempt came in clipped tones. Consider your company's position, Davidson. Without this merger, your shareholders face significant losses. Better short-term losses than complete destruction, Davidson replied. Thanks to Miss Williams, we still have a company to save. Tanaka switched to Japanese, addressing Layla directly. You've made a powerful enemy today. Remember that. Without hesitation, she responded in flawless Japanese. And you've revealed your true character to potential partners worldwide. Remember that. Surprise flickered across Tanaka's face before his mask of composure returned. Davidson gestured toward the door. Miss Williams? As they exited, Ito approached nervously. Ms. Williams, about your position here. I believe she's found a better opportunity, Davidson interrupted smoothly. Layla didn't look back as she walked out, leaving behind the restaurant that had never seen her true value. The Westridge corporate headquarters gleamed in morning light. 24 hours earlier, Layla had been preparing for a double shift at the Golden Dragon. Now she sat in the CEO's office, still processing the whirlwind transformation. Ms. Williams, Davidson began. I'll be direct. You saved this company from disaster last night. His CFO nodded emphatically. The hidden clauses would have triggered default within weeks. We'd have lost everything. 2,000 jobs, Davidson added. Patents worth billions, all preserved because you spoke up when it would have been easier to stay silent. Layla shifted uncomfortably under their praise. I just translated what was actually written. No, Davidson countered. You risked everything to prevent an injustice. That's not just anything. Chen entered with a folder. The formal merger termination is filed. SEC has been notified about the translation discrepancies. And Tanaka? Davidson asked. His company's stock dropped 12% when news broke. Their board is meeting an emergency session. Davidson turned back to Layla. Which brings us to you. She straightened. Me? Westridge needs someone with your skills. Not just language expertise, though that's clearly exceptional, but integrity and courage. He slid a document across the desk. Not a restaurant order pad, but an employment contract. Cultural Compliance Officer, he explained. Overseeing all international negotiations, ensuring translations are accurate and agreements ethical. Starting salary $175,000 plus benefits. Layla stared at the figure, momentarily speechless. Too low? Davidson asked, misinterpreting her silence. We can discuss. No, she laughed. I was making $14 an hour plus tips yesterday. You were dramatically undervalued, he stated simply. We're correcting that mistake. My PhD program. Complete it with our full support. The position includes flexible hours and tuition assistance. Layla carefully read the contract, half expecting hidden clauses. Finding none, she looked up. Why? Why hire you? Davidson clarified. Why create this position? You could simply hire better translators. Davidson leaned forward. Because you demonstrated something translators don't necessarily have the courage to speak truth regardless of consequences. That's rare and invaluable. She signed the document, hand steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Welcome to Westridge, Davidson said, extending his hand. Where we now recognize talent wherever we find it. The business news cycle seized the story with predictable hunger. Breaking, $500 million merger collapses over translation fraud. Tanaka Industries under investigation following contract scheme. Waitress turned executive, the woman who saved Westridge. Layla's phone buzzed constantly with interview requests. Former professors called to congratulate her. Even the Golden Dragon restaurant offered her job back with a substantial raise. Too late. You're trending on LinkedIn, Chen noted, showing Layla her phone. The business community is calling this a watershed moment for contract transparency in international deals. Tanaka's statement appeared on the scrolling news ticker. Regrettable misunderstanding. Translator error. No intentional deception. Davidson muted the television. They'll try to contain the damage, but the truth is out. Layla watched her former life recede like a distant shore. Not just a job change, but a fundamental shift in how the world perceived her value, and how she perceived herself. 6 months later, Layla's office overlooked Manhattan's skyline. Multiple diplomas adorned the wall, her recently completed PhD prominent among them. On her desk sat a framed napkin from the Golden Dragon, a reminder of where her journey had pivoted. A knock at the door preceded Davidson's entrance. The Singapore team needs your review on the partnership agreement. Something about conditional clauses that don't match across languages. She nodded. I'll examine it immediately. Also, he added, the community college called. They're hoping you'll teach another business language workshop next month. Layla smiled. The free classes she'd created for service workers had quickly reached capacity. Waiters, clerks, and custodial staff learning to leverage hidden talents into visible opportunities. Tell them I'll be there, she confirmed. On her computer, a notification appeared. Another company adopting her transparency protocols for international contracts. 26 and counting. Davidson paused at the door. The board wants you at tomorrow's strategy meeting. Your perspective on the Asian market expansion is invaluable. She nodded, the moment still sometimes surreal. From invisible server to valued strategist in 6 transformative months. As Davidson left, Layla touched the napkin frame briefly. Not just a reminder of the past, but a promise to recognize what others overlooked, including herself. Layla's community workshop filled with faces that reminded her of her former self. Restaurant servers, hotel staff, custodians, people whose capabilities far exceeded their current roles. Today we're discussing how to recognize and communicate your unique value, she began. Each of you possesses skills that remain invisible until you bring them into the light. A young waitress raised her hand. But who listens to people like us? The question echoed Layla's own doubts from that pivotal night. The right people listen, she answered. And sometimes you must speak even when no one seems to be listening. As the workshop concluded, Layla offered her closing thought. The world is full of hidden talent trapped in visible roles. The tragedy isn't just that organizations overlook this value, it's that we ourselves often forget what we truly offer. The participants gathered their materials, energized with new possibility. Layla watched them leave, each carrying potential waiting to be recognized, not just by others, but by themselves. Her phone buzzed. Davidson confirming tomorrow's board presentation. From serving tables to shaping corporate strategy, from invisible to essential. The question isn't whether you have value beyond your current role, she whispered to the empty room. The question is, where are you or those around you being undervalued right now? If today's story about Layla's courage touched something in you, don't let that feeling fade away. Hit that like button to help others discover this message of hidden potential and recognition. We all know someone whose talents go unnoticed. Maybe it's you, maybe it's a colleague, or maybe it's the person serving your coffee tomorrow morning. By subscribing to PAP Stories, you'll join a community that celebrates these overlooked heroes and the moments that transform their lives. New stories of courage, recognition, and life-changing moments drop every week. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the chance to be inspired by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. PAP Stories. Because the most powerful transformations happen when someone finally sees what others have missed.